Assume your senses are working properly. Pretend like none of this is an illusion, you're not hallucinating or anything. It seems pretty obvious what the difference is between what's real and what's not real, right? Let's consider.
I can't get it off my mind.
Hello, philosophers. I'm Chico. Welcome to the Philosopher Show, where we consider the greatest questions of human history. Now, as a caveat before we get started, today we're talking about what is metaphysics, what is the nature of this study that we call metaphysics, and really the nature of metaphysics is hotly debated. Some people even wonder if there is such a thing as metaphysics. If that interests you, check out my latest blog post. Actually, I haven't published it yet. I'm publishing it tomorrow. So check out my blog post when it comes out. I talk a little bit about that debate and why would we even question those kinds of things. In any case, talking about what is real and what isn't, it seems like it's pretty obvious, right? It's like the difference between the Incredible Hulk and Beyonce, right? I just picked, by the way, two of the most famous people. The Hulk is my second favorite superhero. I don't really listen to Beyonce, but I know, my bad. But it seems pretty obvious, Beyonce is real, the Hulk is not real. And I know you might say, the Queen Bee, she is just unreal, right? Or you might say, the Hulk is real to me, right? But there's also another obvious way in which the two of them are different. You can't bump into the Hulk, but you can bump into Beyonce. Funny enough, they recently, how did I hear about? That's right. People were posting Orange County Register Facebook posts about Beyonce going to Target in San Clemente. That's crazy, man. You're showing up to Target, it makes the news. That's some kind of life. I saw Felipe Toledo there once. That was pretty rad. Anyway, didn't say hi. That's weird. I don't know. I'm 40 years old, right? That's a weird thing. Anyway, it seems like we know obviously what's different, right? What is real and what's not real. But then there might be other things that seem to be not quite as obvious. So what is the difference between a pond and a lake? It seems like the two are just different sized bodies of water, right? And if that's all the whole difference between the two, imagine I have a pond with the maximum size, maximum amount of water, right? And I take an eyedropper of water and I just one little drop of water. Suddenly, boom, a lake has appeared. Where did that pond go, right? That seems weird. When we say pond and lake, we probably aren't referring to real things. We're probably referring to real water, but we're probably just using words for amounts of water. You might not follow me on that. I don't know. And that's totally fine if you don't, you might say Golden Pond was about a real thing. Ponds are real. Or Lake Pontchartrain is real, right? And again, notice what I'm saying. The water is real, but is there such a thing as a lake? That's more questionable. But at the very least, we can say there are some things that we could just make up, and we can use them as if they were real things. So, for example, and I'm adapting an example from a guy named Nelson Goodman. He put forth the possible thing called GRU, right? Again, I'm adapting it. Imagine a thing that is green before 1995 and blue after 1995. And we're just going to define that thing as GRU. Now, obviously, there are some things in this world that are GRU-ish, right? Some things that were originally green, and in 1995, somebody painted those things blue. But is that a real thing, right? Is there a real color called GRU? That seems pretty odd. It seems pretty arbitrary, right? It seems like we just made that stuff up. So at the very least, we can make up stuff, and we can use those words as if they were real things. And you can even imagine there was some business that I don't know, for some reason was painting things from green to blue, and in 1995, and we wanted for some reason that was very valuable, so we wanted to look for all the GRU-ish things in the world, and you might say. That every time we looked for one, we keep using this word GRU, and then psychologically speaking, it might start to feel like GRU is real. And you can see how it would be easy to deceive ourselves, right? To start to think that things are GRU-ish when they're not GRU-ish. So back to our question, what is metaphysics? Metaphysics is defined in multiple different ways. One way you could define it is that it asks the question, what kinds of things are real? What kinds of things are real and what kinds of things are not real? Now, that is one way of approaching it. I kind of think we want a more nuanced view, however, because, again, like the guy that says the Hulk is real to me, well, we don't mean like real as in like you feel deep down in your heart. We mean real as in like, there's a real truck coming at you or something like that. But then again, the Hulk isn't nothing, right? It's not like it's not like the Hulk is zero at all. It's not. Aristotle defined nothing as that which rocks dream about, right? Not anything. Nothing. Do you see all this stuff around here? Yeah, not any of that stuff. No stuff at all. That's what nothing. When we're using that term, that's what we're referring to. We're referring to like a total absence. And the Hulk isn't a total absence. Otherwise, when we said Hulk, we would mean nothing. Right? We wouldn't mean anything, I should say. Spider-Man is also nothing. So then it would be like when we say Hulk, we meant Spider-Man as well. And that's totally not what we're doing. It's real in some sense, right? But it's only real insofar as it's like an idea or a concept, right? The Hulk. Whereas other things are real, like you can touch them and feel them and you can see them. So probably there are ways of being real. So instead, I think a more nuanced view would be something like metaphysics is ask the question, what is it to be real, and in what ways are different things real? And when we ask that question, we could look at stuff like ponds, and we can say, it is real insofar it is made of water, but it's not real insofar as it's an entity like a tree. It's real insofar as it's useful for me to use that word. It's something that I can swim in, maybe. Maybe that's why we call them ponds. Otherwise, it seems like totally weird that we just all of a sudden said, "Oh, that's about enough. Let's make a new word, lake." Right? Probably pond. People thought, "Hey, that's big enough for me to swim in. Maybe not big enough for me to drive a boat in." And then lake, we said, "Yeah, I can sail around on that guy." I don't know. I assume that's what happened. But in any case, we're asking questions like that. Some more examples of things that you would ask: in what ways are they real? Physical things. In what ways are physical things real? Right? Especially you can think about it in terms of modern science. Macro level objects like boxes and skateboards are made up of a bunch of stuff like protons and neutrons, electrons. Are skateboards anything real in and of? Over and above the atoms that make them up? I don't know. Well, what about artifacts versus natural things? So we have skateboards, and then we have stuff like lead. Skateboards are stuff that we slap together. Is that anything more real than just the stuff that makes it up, just wood and metal? Is there some new thing called skateboard? Living things, as opposed to just like the flesh and bones that make the living things up. Are thoughts real? And in what way are thoughts real? Are people real? Are you nothing more than just a collection of memories and stuff like that? Is there something that substands all that stuff? Is God real? Is causation, right? Cause and effect, is that a real thing? Obviously, when we say cause and effect, it seems that's a whole other stretch of philosophy that I know it sounds bizarre, but it is an interesting arm of philosophy. And our laws of nature real? Now, when I say those last few, it may sound to you like, wait, isn't that science, right? Like, isn't that their realm? Why is philosophy sticking their nose in stuff like laws of nature and things like that? Doesn't science just tell us the kinds of things that are real or not? Especially, it might seem like you think of like the quintessential examples, like Isaac Newton getting hit on the head with an apple, right? He discovers gravity. Science gets to say, there's this real thing called gravity, and they discover it. And philosophy showing up and saying, wait, gravity is not real. That would be, seems like overstepping their bounds. And I'd say yes and no, because science is absolutely right in saying, like, this is, we observe apples falling from trees and always falling at the same constant rate as, or I guess accelerated rate, whatever it is. F equals GMMA, right? Super fun. But think about that thing, gravity. What exactly is it that science is telling us is real out there? Is gravity some kind of real entity that's out there grabbing onto the apple and grabbing onto the earth and pulling them both together, right? Some kind of ghostly force? Is gravity some property of apples, right? Like apples have redness, they have roundness, and they also have gravity. And gravity is what in it, makes it run towards the ground. Is gravity like a law that permeates throughout the universe, and every time apples get loose from trees that says, "Thou shalt fall from the tree and go directly to the ground"? Or is gravity just like we happen to, write down this mathematical equation and it happens to describe every single time an apple falls from a tree? Whoa, that's crazy. It's not that it has to go that way, right? At any moment, an apple could go the opposite way, but wow, isn't that crazy? Every time it seems to follow this thing. Ooh, it's, what a coincidence. What of those things is gravity? And notice, science really doesn't have anything to say about that, right? The science can give us the observations, but these aren't things that you can observe. You can't directly observe gravity. You can observe the effects of gravity, but then we reason back to a cause. We have to say, what must the cause have been like to produce these kinds of effects? And that's more of the job of metaphysics. And don't get me wrong, I am definitely not anti-science, right? I am definitely I love science, but I do want to say that philosophy has something to say here. It at least has something to contribute in the question of what makes things real and what makes things not real. I definitely think that philosophy needs to back off when it comes to observable data, right? Philosophy doesn't get to go and say, no, it can't be the case that you observe the apple falling at this specific rate because it would be totally against my philosophy. No, that's not what we get to do. But we do get to take the scientific discoveries and interpret them and try to see, what is it about them that is real and what is not, and that is the job of metaphysics. Anyway, remember, like I always say, the best philosophy happens in dialogue. So let me ask you these questions. What kinds of things do you think are paradigm cases of things that are real, right? Things that, like, if anything is real, it's got to be this thing. And what kinds of things can you think of that, boy, it seems like we all take it to be real, but it really isn't, right? What kinds of things are we all duped about that if we thought about it a little bit more, we would think, oh, this is nothing more than a this, right? Something like that. What do you think? Also, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And please tag a friend. It would really be helpful to get more people watching this show. And it would help me make more of these videos. That's all I got. Adios.